you created a traveling surgical business where you pack all of your life in a couple of bins and you go to a GP's practice that maybe has never placed an implant before and you do their dirty work.
Yeah, I do their bloody work.
Are you tired of feeling like a contortionist after a long day working in clinical practice? This message is brought to you by our sponsors at Designs for Vision, who are offering you a 45-day free trial of any of their loops. But I strongly encourage you to try their ergonomic loops called Infinity View. Say goodbye to your chin down, neck cranked, poor posture, dental procedure and practice. All you have to do is go to their website, submit a form in order to get your rep to reach out to you, get measured, and get your loops. And then you get 45 days to figure out if you like them or if there's anything that you want to change. Or you can just send them back. But I don't think you will. So buckle up, get ready to rock the Infinity View loops and say hello to a life filled with joy, comfort, and amazing posture. Thank you, Designs for Vision, for creating these beautiful loops. I can't go back to my old ones. Ever.
Welcome back, peeps, to part 2 with Dr. Stephen Vorholt. In the last episode, you heard about his journey from Ohio to moving to Arizona, to being a director of education at Implant Pathways, to creating all of their new content, delivering a bunch of education. And then the most recent life change that you made is to leave a full-time position there. You're still kind of like, you know, one foot in at times and you're supporting the peeps, our friends. But you decided to make a huge shift to create more of a work-life balance. I got to listen to your lecture yesterday that was like, you know, your family and your autonomy was your driving force. And I'd love to know that conversation that you had with your wife. Like when you decided to do this, was it her leading it or was it you? Like, what was that moment when you were like, I am currently unhappy in what I'm doing and I want it to change? Like, what was that like?
She's the one who brought it up. And the thing is, like, I can be really short-sighted. So I wasn't necessarily unhappy in what I was doing, but she was unhappy that I wasn't around as much, which then made me unhappy, you know, as it does. And there were a couple inflection points where I'd be on the road when James, my son, did something, and I would just be like, man, this actually kind of sucks. Or like being on the road wasn't as fun as it was when it first started, which is true with a lot of business travel.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things where it's like, I don't know, I feel like I could do a lot less work for a little more money and also have the flexibility again. Because when I started my practice, I was a single guy. You know, I didn't even have a dog or anything. I could put I could work.
I like that having a form of life as a responsibility is the threshold of like whether you're like a decent human being or not. It's like I didn't even have a goldfish.
I could work 14 hours a day.
Right. You have no responsibilities other than the student loans.
And when you have a dog, you have to at least let them out and stuff.
Right. Or get a pee pad. I mean, one of those like green grass things.
Yeah, but then what's the point?
There's someone in my building that has a delivery service of sod. So they'll deliver a piece of grass in this like container every week. So you get a grass delivery and then they do a pickup or like you throw away the other grass. And I don't know what the rule is, but I see it downstairs. It's like all rolled up in this little roll. Could you imagine that business model? Your job is to create a company that drops off sod.
That is it. So
that's brilliant.
A good friend of mine is a sod farmer, and I'm gonna have to talk to him about that.
Isn't that brilliant?
So
I envisioned that this little dog has this like cute little like station. There's like a fake fire hydrant that you can like put in the dishwasher or something. Like there's got to be like attachments and accessories because people want to accessorize for their dogs. So could you imagine having this like little corner with the little grasses and it like looks like it's like brickwork and there's like a little.
Do they put a little creek next to it?
How cute would that be?
A little water running through there.
That would be adorable.
Yeah, I like it. So
if your friend does this, I'm getting a 5% royalty because it was my idea.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Craig Harder, by the way, everyone. Dr. Craig Harder is here again to co-host this episode. He was using the ladies' room when
it is a much better facility than the men's room.
It's a little cleaner.
Yeah. You know, exactly. They have places to rest.
Yeah, they have lounges.
So Can I call you Steve?
Sure.
Steven?
Yeah.
What do you prefer?
Either one.
Steve?
Steven. Actually.
Steven? Prefer Steven? All right.
You know why I
Steven.
prefer Steven?
No.
Doctor, actually.
It's the extra
Pick
syllable.
up the damn Rubik's Cube and stop playing with my chords.
Why are they so long?
Jeez Louise. So that you
Obviously, I
can
have
lean
nervous
back and
energy.
not take the whole thing off the table.
I prefer Steven because the extra syllable just shows you care.
Oh, okay. So Steven, I care. So you recently started a new company and podcast all at the same time ish.
Yeah, work-life balance, great idea. Just start a
Called-
bunch of
Yeah.
right when you.
I'm going to take away all of the work that I did and just put in a new company that now I need to work twice
All
as
right.
hard to
So-
promote.
All right. So I got to interrupt here.
Have Scalpel will travel.
Right. What were you
Now-
interrupting for?
Is the idea of work-life balance a myth, or
It's probably a myth.
I think we all have to decide
I-
it for ourselves? But yeah,
I think
as a guy, all right, as a guy who has worked really hard to go to the life side rather than work side in the last few years, where like I worked 140 days and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a payment you got to make on that, and
What's
that
the
is
payment?
that is the loss of income, the loss of time, and there's also the idea that spouses get used to us being gone some, and when we're home every
No.
5 days in a row and things, that you
yeah,
got to work on.
it's
There's
an-
little traps in there that
adjustment.
you don't expect. And
It's an adjustment, and we've,
Yeah.
any marriage, we've been married like 3 years. You have to work on it constantly because we're both evolving, and then adding a child into it too.
Yeah.
A move across the country, a job that takes more time, a job that suddenly morphed into a traveling job.
Yeah.
So
How
there's
far do you go? So to tell everyone what you've done, so you
Yeah.
created a traveling surgical business where
Right.
you pack all of your life in a couple of bins.
Yeah.
And you go to a GP's practice that maybe has never placed an implant before, and you do their dirty work.
yeah, I do their bloody work. So the traveling job, like the pathway was the traveling job I meant, like out of town travel.
Oh, okay, got it.
And so this is traveling on a day-to-day basis, but I'm home every night by
Right.
6, 7 o'clock. So now the name Have Scalpel Will Travel came from a friend, a periodontist in Houston, Lewis Cummings. He has a sticker and he has blade will travel.
Hmm.
And I wasn't going to just rip him off completely. So I just ripped him off 3 out of 4 words.
Did he care?
He doesn't know.
What's
is
his
a-
name?
Lewis.
Lewis what?
Lewis Cummings.
Okay.
He's a periodontist. He's hilarious. Driest sense of humor. He's
Cool.
a great guy. He teaches at Pathway. That's how I met him. So that was where the thought of the name came up. When I looked at havescalpelwilltravel.com and it was taken.
No
Yeah.
way. Who took it?
A medical doctor who would fly to different remote places and do surgery.
Oh, okay.
And he just he wrote a book about it, and it came out last year. And I was like,
No.
shit, I was that close to having like the full on. So I don't have the website.
Maybe you can get the
I have-
Canadian version.
Yeah, I have
CC or
havescalpelwilltravel
whatever it is.
show.com or something
Oh.
like that. I don't know.
Got it.
Anyhow, the idea is not unique.
Right.
Once you start looking out, you'll hear about a lot of people doing this.
I've got one in my practice.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole idea is, why do a startup that's going to cost me $750,000 to do everything I want? CBCT, 3D printing,
Sure.
blah, 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 brick and mortar, staff, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
When I can spend less than 50 grand and have all this stuff that I can travel with, and I can do it on my own time. And if I'm not working, I'm not paying somebody
Yeah.
or having a loan or what have you. And then it's all about systems, which I've gotten really good at. So systems, as far as like when I go in an office, what that look like? How do we do the patient like medical
Your paperwork.
consults?
Like
and
I got to see
paperwork
some
and-
of that like iPad work yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Like everything is branded to the company that you go to or the office that you go to. There's,
Yeah,
it
it should feel
a
seamless.
photo gets uploaded. There's like
Right.
Dropbox links and things.
by an iPad.
Yeah.
It's everything should be seamless to the patient and to the practice. So like the admin team isn't like, oh, this like Steve's back. This is going to be a headache again, like
Yeah.
with coding or whatever. And the patient's not like, this feels like an awkward
Weird.
handoff. It should be smooth. Anything so the patients get automated emails, the practice gets automated emails, like notes and follow ups and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And that took me a while to get. Like November, December, I spent kind of setting.
Do you feel
up.
like you got that pretty well
I
dialed
think I'm
in?
like 3/4 of the way there. It works now, but
So how many
as
days a
you
week
use
are
it-
you working now?
I'm starting pretty slow right now. I'm like 2 days a week.
Is that by choice or just by startup?
Well, it was by choice at first,
Yeah.
and then I had some plumbing issues at a house in Scottsdale that cost a lot more money than I thought. All of a sudden, and now it's like I need to start going faster because I
Yeah.
had a little nest egg built up during my little sabbatical.
Yeah.
I was going to like slowly work this. And now it's kind of like, okay, well, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to get into an office in my experience. So,
Right.
so now by mid-February, I should be at 4 offices. By March, hopefully like 6 offices.
Nice.
My goal is to work 3 to 4 days a week.
Is the goal that eventually you bring on other docs that work for you and travel for you, and you've got a little bit of like an agency
Maybe. It's
drop
not-
thing, or
It's not the goal, but it's a potential alley. I think I just want to see
like someone that can't afford to buy all of their own equipment or doesn't want to, and then you just have like, so a friend of mine owns a mobile dental hygiene practice, and her main there's an episode with her that I'll link below. Her name is Tina, and she has a mobile dental practice that sets up in corporate buildings.
Okay.
So the episode is called Teeth Cleaning at Google. So she like went into the Google HQ in Toronto and like took over one of their meeting rooms, turned it into a dental office basically with like mobile units and stuff. And the like 300 employees that work there all scheduled appointments in advance. And it was a drag and drop. She did the same thing at Adidas and like some of these big corporations. Because they all have benefits, right? So if you break it down and you work backwards, these big companies pay into benefits for their team members or insurance. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback is that team members aren't using those benefits because they're too busy working. So it's like the lawyers in the law offices and the CEOs, and those are the clients that you want, first of all, because they have great insurance and they have the resources, and hopefully they're above average intellect, know the healthcare and oral care connected. So that was her main business, and that was her. She was that one person, but now she has people that does it for her, and she goes into assisted living facilities.
Oh, cool.
And these facilities also have retirees that live there that have some money and nest eggs, and they need new dentures and they need implant supported dentures. So like, you know, they're not decrepit old humans. They're people that still need teeth too. So that business evolved. And again, I'll link that below if you want to listen to the whole episode. She talks about her business strategy and how she did that. But I feel like you're onto something, you know?
It could. It's I've read books, like business books, and I like business in general. And so when I was setting this up, I definitely have ideas in the future. Like, yeah, this could be kind of a franchise model. It could be a stable.
I mean,
of
it could be a
surgeons.
passive income for you.
Yeah,
You could just be the guy that started the Have Scalpel Will Travel company. And
I don't know enough to like actually pull that off yet.
I mean, that
but
takes,
I could learn it, and I've thought about it. It's what I want to do first is just get out there and get full
if
myself.
Molly Maid could do it, and Meals on Wheels, and like there are so many different service industries that have modeled this exact same thing. Molly Maid is not Molly Maiding anymore. Like,
you don't think Molly's doing it anymore?
Molly was the maid. Like that was the thing. Like if you read any books about business management, they tell you all of these like interesting stories of this one person and it was just like that one question, like, hey, I need you here and here all at the same time.
Yeah,
and
can't do it. How do I do this?
I can't do it. How do I do it? Like you figure it out. Hey, you ask your friend. So this like exact same thing where you were like, well, Moody's going to be out of town next week, so I'm going to fill in for him. That might be the situation that happens for you.
Yes.
And you're like, I'm going to be away because my son's, I don't know, doing a hockey thing. Like, who's going to come to this office? They have a full day for me. Like,
That's
what do
cute.
I do?
You hear that? Like, we live in Arizona. She's like, oh, he'll play hockey.
Well, maybe there's arenas. No,
so you're not wrong.
But you never know, right?
I think after 8 or 10 offices,
I think in 5 years from now, we'll reevaluate. We'll re-listen to this episode.
Yes.
And you'll either have like a pivotal year or...
I think I'll know in 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
There's a dentist, a GP out of Dallas area that he was trying to set up a similar deal. But his deal was more along the basic surgery. So third molars, extractions and all that. And he was traveling around and he was trying to set up a franchise setup, and he was doing all kinds of paperwork, and he never really could get it off the ground. So he ended up backing up and just bringing in associates to do what he does, and within his own company, and that worked pretty well for him.
Yeah.
I think that would be easier than a franchise model, but I think if you
were to franchise, it'd have to be state to state.
Yeah.
Like you have to be.
I think in 6 to 12 months, I'll know, because I do think 8 to 10 offices, I'll be capped.
Yeah.
And what will either happen is one or two things. I'll get to 8 to 10 offices, and I'm done working more than 16 days a month with my vacation and stuff. So I can't take more offices. I would either have to start trimming the fat out of the least productive offices.
Sure.
Or saying, you know what, I'll come to your office every 2 months because there's not enough work. Or say, excuse me, I'm going to take that office and we're going to quietly break up.
Mm-hmm.
Or I do what you're suggesting and say, hey, I've got this doctor who's got 2 days a week. He can fill in a couple offices and it could certainly grow from there. So I
Right.
thought about it. I think I'll find out
You'll know
quickly.
when you're.
But it could be that I get to the 8 to 10 and I'm just going to ride this wave for 2
nothing wrong with
years,
that.
save some money and
Well, it comes down to
Whatever.
that, like, what's your freedom number?
Right.
What do you need to
And
produce? And then what's your lifestyle number? Like, how much money do you need to support your lifestyle?
way too much.
and you'll also end up with that natural attrition of losing office here, and you got to gain
Sure.
another one back. And
So
all
I think
that.
always having like a passive marketing that's like, hey, apply for an office, see for a good fit. And then what it might end up being if I had a stable of like 3 docs is maybe I go in and meet the doctors and set it up. And then I'm just like, hey, by the way, like every month we'll let you know which surgeon. Now, Lifeguard Anesthesia, who's a CRNA group here, similar case. It was 2 CRNAs. You don't really see them as much anymore. You might see them.
Right.
They might do the
You
case,
just
but
never
it
know.
could be Joe. It could be
Yeah.
Dylan. I mean,
Right.
and but it's the same. It's like they come and you know what you're going to get. It's going to be
Same
lifeguards, it's going to be
routine, so.
smooth. It's going to be blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Yes, you could totally do that. And that is why I have my own personal logo and I have that logo.
Yeah.
And
So they're a little separate from one another.
they're a little separate, but they're the same color scheme and they're obviously tied together.
Got it.
So it's been thought about,
Cool.
but I need to
Awesome.
probably just make money first.
Well, I'll link all of that info below. Thanks for sharing your business model. We got one more
Yeah,
clip to
someone
this.
could totally steal it at
We
this
got
point.
one more clip to our series with you. So
Okay.
peeps, stay tuned. Will you assist me on that one too?
Can I please?
Okay. All right. We'll be back with part 3, peeps. Thanks again for tuning in. Welcome back, peeps, to part 3 of our episode with Dr. Stephen Vorholt. Vorholt. How do you pronounce it with your like accent?
I have an accent?
I mean, it's not like Smith. It's got to be like Vorholt
Oh, I don't know.
or something.
It's German.
It's German, yeah.
I say Vorholt. It's
Vorholt.
probably like Vorholt.
Yeah.
Vorholt.
Sounds like
And my co-host,
My
Dr.
grandfather,
Craig
my
Harder.
German grandfather used to really growl our last name, but
Harder.
I can't quite do it, so I'm just going to leave that.
Yeah, this is the shortest of the 3 episodes, and this is.
Oh, okay. She's putting a time
Oh,
limit
I was
on
going
it.
to say.
No. I mean, it's by virtue of the way that we structure these episodes, and he's got no idea what's happening right now. But
I
I'm
have
gonna
no
ask you a
idea.
couple of tough questions.
Oh shoot.
He's gonna need something to fidget with for sure.
That's my fidgeter's been stolen.
I'll ask you an easy one to start. If you could like do more of something 5 years ago and less of something else, what would that be?
I should say pay off my student loans, but I'm not going
Don't
to.
tell me what you should say. Just tell me what you want to say.
Okay, what should I have done more of 5 years ago?
Or what do you
Professionally or
think? No,
personally?
this is not. It doesn't have to be dental at all.
Okay,
It's just
5
like
years
if
ago.
you could think back to like your life 5 years ago, and you
Well,
were doing something. What did you wish you would have done more of?
Okay, I wish I would have done more big CE because when I
Like
first
learning
started
or teaching it.
learning, I wasn't 5 years ago. I wasn't nobody, so I wasn't gonna be teaching anything. But I should have gotten into the deeper pool of CE faster. My partner at the time was the kind of guy who would get like the 40 hours and that was it. And I never wanted to be that person, but I didn't think I could afford not to be. Like, if 5 years ago, if that would have been like 3 or 4 years out of school, if I would have done like the COIS continuum,
Yeah.
that is a springboard for anyone I know who's taken it. That is like an unbelievable springboard for their whole career, but it's expensive.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Can
when
we,
you're
can
only
we
a
make
couple
that
years out-
statement right now to the young dentists out there that you need to set aside
Money.
a good chunk of change,
Yeah.
25, 30,000 a year as an overhead expense for education,
Yeah.
and it will pay off huge. But when it comes down to it, I just can't go to that $2,500 class. That's just more.
Yeah.
gotta
you
do
have
it.
got to
It's a write-off.
preset that money aside.
it's a
Understand,
write-off.
even
It's
if
a
it comes from a
write-off.
line of credit.
Right.
It is the best investment you'll make is early in your career because it's like compounding interest
Yeah.
or do something like Pathway, like something surgical, but I think something like COIS, it's like a continuum, is phenomenal. And they book out like years in advance. So
Yeah.
like you got to do it soon. I wish I'd done more like that. The one thing I'm glad I did 5 years ago was I traveled a lot,
For
and
fun or
for fun.
Yeah.
I traveled
like
a
you
lot,
Took time.
like out of the country. Did lots of really fun stuff that
yeah.
once you have a business and children and all that stuff, it gets harder to pull that off. So we mentioned that in episode 1. Just like in your 20s or 30s, like you also have to live. So yeah, put money aside, get your career moving in the right direction, but don't be a little hot like hermit.
Yeah. Do more CE.
So I would have done bigger, more CE sooner.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Okay. What's one thing you wish you didn't know?
Jeez. I don't know. I'm such like I love learning stuff. It's kind of hard to say what I wish I didn't know.
About anything, about life, about dentistry, but anything. What's one thing? What's one lesson you wish you didn't learn the hard way?
Man, these are tough questions.
I keep dropping back to the idea that we talked about last night of I wish I didn't know how the sausage was made in some instances. And that can be applied to a lot of different things. But yeah.
I wasn't there last night.
No.
Tell me about the story.
Just knowing, let's say, as a complete nobody specific, but let's say a dental company that has pushed aside bad publications against them and things like that. And as you spend a lot of time into the more education side of dentistry, you find, you learn about some of these things. And at some point it really bothers you and you kind of wish that you didn't know how the sausage was made.
Yeah.
Not putting anything specific on Steven's story, but it's just we all have those small things that we learned, and it's kind of like, gosh, I wish I didn't know that.
There's a lot of stuff I wish I did know.
Yeah,
like it's hard to think of what I wish I did know.
I did want to hear all the stories, so
there is some stuff I wish I did know. But
what is one thing that you wish you didn't know? I mean, Craig just gave us the over the balcony view of it, but be specific.
What do you wish you didn't know, Craig? I'm dying here.
I wish I didn't know how babies were made.
Wish I didn't know how babies came out.
Yeah, that's what I was really going for, but it kind of didn't quite go there.
I don't know. I'm really drawing a blank here. I mean, I guess I'm not. I thought I was good at business, but I never had a successful business. Like Mark Costas style business, right? So sometimes I wish I didn't know after a business falls apart. For instance, like my partnership in Ohio. I kind of wish I didn't know what was actually happening.
Yeah.
Like the moves that my partner was making.
Yeah.
Because like after it all falls apart and you look back with 20/20 vision, you're like, oh,
I didn't see
he
that
was
coming.
2 steps ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. And kind of either wish I knew that or wish I just never was aware of it.
Oblivious.
I guess that might be one of them.
Yeah.
Just like looking back on experiences that you thought were good and then realizing they were disingenuous.
Yeah.
But that'd be one of them.
That question's being answered that same way in multiple
no kidding
variations by a lot of people.
Like you didn't know people's true intentions.
And it's interesting because I mean it's always about number one, right?
So
like number one is always me, myself, and I.
Yeah. Is the moral of the story that we should be very weary of those things, or should we just keep going and say, you know what?
Well, I think the molar of the story is we need to be transparent.
Did you say the molar of the story?
Yeah. That's my line. I say that every episode, at least once.
I caught it in the lecture yesterday.
Yeah, I said it in my lecture. Guess who wasn't paying attention in my lecture
Obviously,
that didn't hear it?
I was just looking at the superhero photo.
No, I know.
The Star Trek photo.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought when I heard molar of the story. I'm sorry.
Well, that was it. That was the question.
Irene, what's your answer to that story?
Oh, well, I can't answer it. It's not my question.
As a co-host now.
So every time I ask that question, I answer the question to myself, and my reflection is that I need to answer it to myself differently.
Does it change every time?
Yeah, because I forced myself to come up with something else that
That's good. That's growth, right?
Yeah, because I think that if you can't identify some of these, and most people have a hard time answering hard questions, right? For one reason, maybe we're cynical and we're afraid that someone's going to judge us, or like they know too much, or I've said too much, or I'm exposing myself to, I don't know, scrutiny or misdirection or misguidance or whatever. Manipulation is one of them. And we're all constantly trying to manipulate one another to feel a certain way or to say too much or not enough, whatever it is. So I think we need to be able to answer these tough questions. Otherwise, there's no way you'll be successful in whatever your definition of success is. And that's another one of the questions I didn't ask you. I've got 10 questions that I rotate. But yeah, one of my things is I wish I didn't know how deceitful people could be to get ahead.
Yeah.
Or I wish I didn't know that people actually hide their true feelings in order to make you believe that they are a better version of themselves than they actually are. Or vice versa. Like sometimes people seem super vulnerable, but then behind the scenes, they're stabbing you in the back. So ask yourself often, like, what do I wish that I didn't know that happened? And how can I prevent that from happening again?
That's the thing. All the things I wish I didn't know have made me smarter for the next time.
Because you're
It's gonna
listening
happen
to
again.
them.
And the one thing that I my personality type or whatever, I don't hold grudges. Like, I might be upset about something for a little while, but I move on because it's just I don't carry baggage. It's just not worth it to me. It's not something that I went to therapy for and was like, no, I don't care. I just naturally I'm just like, no, it's just time to move on. Like, why do I want to focus on this? It's over, it's done. Like, my partner in Ohio, we were actually great friends. Things fell apart last year. I reached out we connected like a couple months ago for something random. Came up that like something about the business. I had to tell him a password. Like, I don't know what it was. It was something like that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like this guy. I was
This guy, let him ask for the two-step authentication.
I know that he was going through some stuff in his life at the time that I'm aware of, and I wasn't maybe aware of how much stuff he was going through at the time. And everyone's human. Like, yeah, if you look at this one little like moment in time, it's like maybe he was but like, no, I have no hard feelings about it.
Do you think that people just intentionally are deceitful?
I think some people are.
Yeah, that's just their.
I don't think he was. I don't think anyone I've worked with has been like just like an evil person.
I think that number is smaller than most people believe.
Yeah.
What number?
Intentionally deceitful.
You think so?
I think we all have our moment where we're going to be deceitful to someone in a situation, but that doesn't mean that's who we are as a general rule. And so most of the people, then I'm going to transfer that over and say that then most people are not that way. There are definitely, and there are people that you just want to smash in the face because of that. But,
yeah.
But as a general,
people are just so complex, and our mind wants to be like bad, good, and that's just not how it works. But I don't hold grudges, and I've never. Hopefully, I continue that, and it helps you move on. Like, if you were carrying all this baggage, maybe you wouldn't do another business, or maybe you'd be nervous to get in business relationships with other people again, or something like that. So, I mean, the one thing in my short career so far is the people I've met at bigger CEs or things like this they've become some of my best friends and best sounding boards. I mean,
well, and if you are constantly watching out for that deceitful person, then you're not going to find the person to collaborate with,
right?
And prove things. So,
that's really interesting. Like, if you're skeptical of everybody, then there's no way that you're gonna.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well.
Of the three of us here at the table, Irene is far better
at doing a
Rubik's Cube.
Yeah,
Anywho,
I just fiddled with it.
Thanks again, peeps. Thank you, both of you, for being
Thank you.
here.
Some tough questions, man.
You've never been on my podcast before. We ask the hard ones. I mean,
Do
it's
we
easy
have
to
to
pick
do
up a scalpel and tell me how you place an implant. And
I
if
can do that all day.
You could do that all day, but ask him what he wishes he didn't know, and he's like squirming in his pants. Yes, I love it.
So does he have to do a somersault or cartwheel?
No, that was somebody else's podcast. Yeah, there's no Tooth or Dare anymore. We're not doing that anymore. Okay, thanks again for tuning in to another episode, peeps. Check out all of the links below. Check out the podcast that we did together. I'm not sure if it'll be up by this time, but we'll collaborate on that. And until next time, peace out, peeps.
Bye.
Ooh, thanks, Irene.
Bye.